been doing over the years is even, I would say, becoming more and more relevant.
What we do is track, manage, and optimize brands, entities.
I was free and clear on the internet till somebody with the same name went and ran for a political office.
You can trick the journalists, and the journalists will write articles about you. But at topical level, you cannot cheat the AI.
Can we get into this process that you guys go through at CaliCube?
Yeah, the process is really simple. It's understandability, credibility, deliverability.
How do they prioritize consistency over increasing their credibility?
You don't want to be on more platforms off the bat. What you want is to sort out what you already have, because that's already going to be incredibly powerful.
What are the things people should go figure out and do right away?
Well, I would take a step back and ask myself, who am I? What do I do? Who do I serve?
What are some of the big mistakes people or brands make on their about pages, their brand pages?
Well, the biggest mistake is to...
All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by Jason Barnard with CaliCube. Jason, welcome.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jared. That was beautifully said.
Thank you. You know, I was telling you right before we record, if I get it right before we hit record, it seems to increase the chances I'm going to get your name pronunciation wrong when we hit record. But all's well, we're off to a good start. So that's going to be a good sign for today. I've been tracking you for a while now. You probably don't know this. I've been following along with what you're doing. I've always been very intrigued by the work you've done. I've always loved reading your case studies. I've always loved reading your articles you publish in places like popular SEO publications and things. So I'm very excited to have you on today. And what you've been doing over the years is even, I would say, becoming more and more relevant, more and more important
absolutely.
with AI and LLMs entering the fold. So with that out of the way, give us your backstory. Tell us a little about who you are and what you do. I can't wait to get into today's topic, though.
Right. That's delightful, because my take is that the world has just caught up with me.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't disagree with that.
Right. Okay. Jolly good. That makes me feel much better.
Yes.
I created CaliCube, which is the company with the 25 billion data points, the technology, CaliNexus, 10 years ago. And I was saying, okay, what's really important today is brand. And in 2015, brand was supposed to be super important according to Google, but actually wasn't.
Right.
So I bought into the idea that Google could figure out brand entities. They were talking about from strings to things. And I took them at their word. So I built an entire platform, CaliCube Pro, which was focused on the idea that Google understood what a thing was. And truth be told, it was marketing guff.
Yes.
From them, not from me.
Right. Yeah.
And
everyone listening will agree with you on that.
Yeah. No, I've just waited 10 years for them to catch up.
So you literally are the embodiment of it took 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah. Yes. Brilliant. And what's kind of cruel about it is I feel I was naive in that I believed what Google was saying, because I can see why it's important. I can see why it's fundamental. And I could see immediately why it was the future. I just overestimated their ability to do it.
Yeah.
And it's super complicated.
Is it safe to say they
wanted... Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, is it safe to say they wanted to do it? I mean, some of the early readings or some of the early stuff you published that I started reading was really about Google's knowledge panel, their knowledge graph, and the data points that they had in there. I mean, is it safe to say they wanted to do it, but they just couldn't figure it out for quite a while?
Yeah, they wanted to do it. And the thing is, they still haven't figured it out. None of them have. And the more I dig into this, I realize how difficult it is and why they haven't managed to do it. I mean, if you look at figuring out what a thing is, as a human being, it's instinctive. We just think, okay, I see Jared, I know who he is, I can understand who he is, and he's not another Jared, what's your name? Bauman?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I said it right. Jolly good. So we both said each other's names right. But for a machine, it really isn't obvious.
Yeah.
And classifying different people, corporations, products into their correct place understanding who they are, what they do, who they serve, why they're important, is hugely challenging. We've got a database of 25 billion data points. We've got 70 million brands in our system and 1 million entrepreneurs. And we struggle to do it with that tiny data set. Mm-hmm. And I say tiny data set with a pinch of salt, in the sense that with 70 million brands, big number, that's already 10 times bigger than Wikipedia.
Wow.
But Google is well over 10,000 times bigger than Wikipedia. So what I've done at CaliCube is scale out Wikipedia tenfold. Google have done it 10,000-fold. And tenfold is difficult enough. 10,000-fold, I hate to imagine.
Right. Hey guys, Jared here with a really quick but cool story from one of our listeners. Recently, Felice Kaufman grabbed her complimentary GEO snapshot audit from 201 Creative because she wanted to just understand how visible her site was to LLMs. A couple days later, she got the audit back, but that's not all she ended up getting. The audit also uncovered a serious technical issue that had been quietly holding her site back. Turned out to be a really simple fix, which she made almost immediately. Within days, one of her older articles shot to the top of the search results, and she ended up making thousands of dollars in a single week. Her words, quote, "Your GEO audit was a godsend. I saw an increase in traffic in hours. I've been at this for 2 years full time, and this was a big, big deal." So yes, the GEO snapshot audit, it shows you how your site is positioned for AI and LLM visibility. Sometimes it also reveals some hidden blockers that might be quietly costing you traffic and money. Right now, it's still free for Niche Pursuits listeners. You can grab yours at 201creative.com/GEO snapshot. Again, that's 201creative.com/GEO snapshot. Now, back to the episode. So give everyone the kind of 30-second high level, like what is CaliCube? What do you specialize in? And then we'll get into kind of getting educated here on what that looks like in today's environment.
Well, you've just made me realize that what is CaliCube? It's 10 times bigger than Wikipedia. That's pretty cool. What we do is track, manage, and optimize brands, entities. So it can be a personal brand of an entrepreneur or an actor or a musician or a corporation or a product. And our goal is to say, how do we communicate, educate algorithms like ChatGPT, Google, Bing, Siri, Amazon? How do we educate them so they understand who we are, what we do, who we serve, and why we're the best solution to the subset of their users who are our audience?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
that's key.
Well, I was going to ask you more about that. So I was going to ask you about that. I mean, I think people listening will be familiar with an entity at this point, right? It's been kind of tossed around and talked about quite a bit these days, and has been around for, I've been around for a while, but certainly in the conversation for people doing online work for 5 to 10 years now. But I think there's a lot of confusion around how that relates to online success and to having your audience find you, because you brought it back earlier. I mean, I'll tell the quick story. I've told this before. I've shared it in my email list. Like Jared Bauman, was free and clear on the internet, ranking for everything until somebody with the same name went and ran for a U.S. position in political office, right? And so they instantly had far more authority than I did. But what's interesting is I don't really want to show up in search results for people who are looking for the politician anyways. And so understanding the entity, understanding how that plays into what rankings look like, but also understanding how it plays into the audience type, as you mentioned.
And that's a really interesting point, is I think our egos want us to dominate for our own name. And if you're called Bob Smith, you have no hope.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine from Authoritas, Lawrence O'Toole, just did a study, and it was based on a spam project by a UK company. And it was basically saying, can we create experts that don't truly exist? Mm-hmm. And the answer is yes and no. And the yes is you can trick the journalists, and the journalists will write articles about you because they don't have the time or resources to do their background checks. And if they do, they're using AI, and AI will simply repeat what it's being told. But at topical level, you cannot cheat the AI. So if you say, is Jared Bowman an expert in this topic? It will say yes, because I've named you. But if you say, who are the experts in this topic, it won't name you.
Okay.
And that's a key difference. If you haven't walked the walk, if you don't have the proof, you can't win the game. And obviously the days of spam and cheating and beating the system are not over, but they're certainly much closer to being over today than they were before.
Right.
Because the AI can be tricked with very simple ideas like a name of somebody within a topic matter, but they won't push that person to the top of the topic matter if there isn't any evidence. So we're focusing now on evidence. How can you prove? And at CaliCube, we talk a lot about claim, frame, prove. You make claims, you frame them to your advantage, and then you prove them. And if you can't fill those three parts of that trilogy, you're not going to win.
A lot of people have a question mark when it comes to building out a entity that has a good reputation online, and that is, and again, this is the key part, that is able to be cited where needed by LLMs and Google, right? So there's almost two components here. Tell me where I'm wrong on this, or tell me where I'm right on this. But is one component, maybe a first component, like you actually have to build a reputation that is worth an LLM or a search engine recommending, and then you have to make sure that they will recommend it. And just doing one or the other isn't enough to fully build out an entity that has a good online, often cited reputation.
Which is a great point. Yes, exactly. You can say all you want, I'm the best in the world, on your own website. If you have no proof, you're going nowhere. So it actually kind of works together. You need to lay out your claiming and your framing on your own website. And then you need to prove it. If you just claim and frame, you're not going to get anywhere, which is the example I just gave you from Lawrence from Authoritas, is they were claiming and framing, but they couldn't prove.
They could get a journalist to cite them, but that doesn't actually mean there was any proof.
No, the AI understands it's just a journalist repeating something that has been said to them. If they haven't then been in any conferences or cited in different journals across the last 5 or 6 years, they're obviously not an expert. So it's quite easy to figure that out for the AI. But if you just prove it all the time, but you don't actually build your version of the story, you're losing out. So an example of that would be somebody who has been to lots of conferences, written loads of articles, but because they don't have a central hub, the entity home website, their own website, that brings all the pieces together, the machines can't understand the fragmented message they're being fed. So walking the walk without organizing it, you've lost. Organizing it without walking the walk, you've lost.
Yes.
You need to walk the walk and organize it, and there you've won. And the delightful thing there is somebody else who walks the walk like you do, but doesn't organize it, is always going to lose because you're organizing. And even with less walking the walk,
right,
you're still going to win. And
yes.
A good example of that is, once again, Lawrence, who wrote this article. He did an experiment to figure out who were the search and AI experts that the AI recommends. And the answer is Jason Barnard. You can take any other expert in the world, Neil Patel, Rand Fishkin, Lily Ray, any of them, and Jason Barnard comes out on top. Why? Not because Jason Barnard is more famous or better than any of the others, because they're all brilliant, but because I've organized it. So that organization moves you up several steps on the ladder of authority notability, famousness, simply because you've joined the dots for the machine and the machine can easily follow it, and you can push your narrative into the machine.
We have such an awesome agenda that I'm just going to get right into it with you because I'm excited. And I want to leave some time for me to just ask you like a nice list of questions I think a lot of people listening would have if they could have a one-on-one with you. I get to have a one-on-one with you right now, so I'm going to hope to ask as many of those as I can. But you know, you outlined in our back and forth in our agenda, like the CaliCube process. You know, I would call it almost like a playbook as I read it. Like, can we start getting into some of the things you talked about? And you've kind of already given an outline in our conversation so far about your 3-step process, starting with what you say on your website, then going out and proving it to some degree. But can we get into this process that you guys go through at CaliCube?
Yeah, the process is really simple. It's understandability, credibility, deliverability. Does the algorithm understand who you are, what you do, who you serve? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. When somebody Googles your name or asks ChatGPT, do they give an incredibly clear and accurate answer about you? If the answer is no, you need to build understandability more effectively. And the next step up is credibility. Does it believe, do Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity believe you are the best solution in market? Mm-hmm. And if they don't, you need to prove it to them. Number 3 is deliverability. When somebody is searching around your topic, do you have the topical authority for them to recommend you, even when somebody is simply looking around the topic? Will you get cited? So there's an idea of citability, and that's something that's new with AI that wasn't there with search. It isn't a question of ranking, it's a question of, are you top of algorithmic mind? Does the algorithm think of you when somebody mentions your topic? And if the answer is yes, you're winning the game. If the answer is no, you're losing the game.
Right. So what are the key components in understandability?
You need to be incredibly clear about who you are, what you do, who you serve on your entity home website. That's the website for you as a person or as a corporation.
Good. I'm glad you clarified that. We're talking about person or brand here, right? It can be almost synonymous or interchangeable, whether you're person, which is an entity, the brand, which is an entity, and everything. So thank you for clarifying. Keep going.
Yeah, or a product, or a film, or a music album. It doesn't matter. All of these things are entities, brands. And one really important point is you as a human being are not your company. So if you think I've got a company website and that's enough, I've got calicube.com, but I also have jasonbarnard.com, because calicube.com is the company and jasonbarnard.com is the person who owns and runs the company, and that's 2 very different things. So that understandability idea is to say, well, I have a website where I can explain who I am, what I do, who I serve, and then I can build on top of that my argument about why I'm credible. I won a Davy Award. I was Search Engine Land top article writer 2024. I've been cited by Authoritas as the top AI search expert in the world. All of those are credibility signals that I can send. And if I don't organize them myself on my own website, I'm doing myself a disservice. Because one might think, okay, well, the information's out there. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Crunchbase, it's on my old company website that I did all these amazing things. The machine doesn't necessarily make those connections. And if you make the connections for it on your own website, you're doing yourself a huge favor.
And what is the best way? What is the best way to connect it? You know, I mean, I get asked this from time to time. Mention it. Do I need a hyperlink to it? Do I need to add it to the schema? Like, is there
all 3?
All 3, yeah. So it's
all of the above.
All the above.
And that's the lovely thing is we still need links. Links are explicit relationships between what you're saying and what the proof is. So if we come back to the claim, frame, prove idea, I claim that I ran a company called Up to 10. I founded that company, and that company worked with Disney and Samsung. So I make the claim on my own website. I frame that and say, that means I'm a great entrepreneur, that I've worked with some big brands, that makes me more important. And I link to up to 10 to say, and there's the proof. Claim, frame, prove. That's hugely powerful.
Okay.
And there are multiple things there. Number one, as you said, it's a link. I can link to an up to 10 page, a page on the site up to10.com that confirms what I'm saying. So that's proof. I can link to ITV Studios to say, up to 10 worked with ITV Studios. Jason Barnard was the CEO of up to 10. Therefore, Jason Barnard has worked with ITV Studios. So it's very logical. It's very much like a court case, claim, frame, proof. But I can also just say it in a semantic triple, because ITV Studios or Samsung or Disney don't need to link back to me. All I need from them is to say, up to 10 signed a deal with Samsung. That semantic triple, which is subject, verb, object, Samsung had a deal with up to 10, I can then say on my website, I was the CEO and founder of up to 10, I signed that deal, and that semantic triple without the link is still proof. I can link out to it.
Fascinating. Okay, that's gold right there. What are some of the big mistakes people or brands make on their about pages, their brand pages, their proving, if you will, the claiming of what they're doing? What are the big mistakes people make?
Well, the biggest mistake is to start at the beginning. So they start with the beginning at the top. In 1997, I set out with my bloody, bloody, blah.
Okay.
You should start with the end. So you start with the therefore I'm the best. So you start with that key phrase, which is Jason Barnard is an award-winning entrepreneur, innovator, author, and keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And then you describe why, and you justify, and you give all that proof, and you link out to all that proof. Like a human being, a machine will take what's at the top of the page to be the most important. So the biggest mistake is simply to tell your story upside down.
Yeah.
Tell it the right way up, which is what's important now first, then work your way back.
Makes me think of a movie. So many movies nowadays, right? They start with a scene and then they show you something about where the movie, the characters are right now. They do 5 minutes of that, and then the movie gets going and it says 3 years earlier or something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good point. Love it.
It's just what came to mind. Okay. This is great.
I can actually give you the second big mistake.
Oh, there's more. Good. I thought that was the only big mistake.
Oh, no, there are dozens.
Oh, carry on. Don't let me stop you.
The second biggest mistake is assuming the machines will understand.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad you touched on that, because that was going to be one of my questions later on, is assuming the machine understands. No, take it now, because I think this is the right time to tackle it.
Well, there are a couple of things going on. Number one is I write in a way that isn't clear.
Yep.
You need to start with that assumption. Whatever you say is not clear. And if you're using AI, and I hope you probably are, mm-hmm. You'll realize that the machine often answers something that doesn't really make sense. 98% of the time, that's a figure I've just made up, it's because you haven't been explicit about what you were asking it to do.
Correct. Yeah.
And if you then look at what you asked it, you haven't asked it something very clear. So it's trying to figure out what you need or what you want or what result you want. And if you watch the logic, a lot of them now give you the thought process. You'll see trying to figure out what the user wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see that, then you haven't been clear.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I need an article that proves that Jason Barnard is the world expert in answer engine optimization. Here is the proof points, and then I list them. If I don't do that, I'm asking the machine to figure it out. I might just say, give me an article like Jason Barnard being genius. That doesn't give it any guardrails or context or information. Mm-hmm. You need to be incredibly clear with these machines. They're not intelligent in the way that we think about it. They don't have imagination. They don't make those leaps of imagination that a human being will make. They will give you the most probable answer to the question you've made. So problem number one is not being clear enough in the way you're expressing your facts, your claims, your frames, and even your proof. The second is not joining the dots. So if I don't link to the piece of information that proves what I'm saying, I'm letting the machine try and find it. But why don't I just point the machine to that piece of information? So once again, we come back to the entity home website, which is my own website, where I state the claims, I frame them in a way that makes sense to me today, and I link to the proof. And if I've got that, then I'm winning the game.
I want to ask about credibility, that second part that you mentioned, and building credibility. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on where to go to build credibility. I know that sounds like an odd question, but I almost imagine that there's got to be some sort of hierarchy to where these search engines, these algorithms, these LLMs, what they look at as credible versus not credible. And maybe where we think of building credibility actually doesn't matter much. So talk about credibility, because I think this is where a lot of people struggle. This is an area where a lot of people struggle. They have some sort of authority, they have some sort of expertise, but they really lack in online credibility.
Well, that brings up multiple kind of questions. Number one is the credibility you have is what you've done. And you need to leverage that. And a little bit of imagination, and you're going to leverage what you already have incredibly well. So I'll give you an example. For example, I owned a company called Up to 10. I was the CEO of the company. And the company signed a deal with Disney and with Samsung and with ITV Studios. And I always said, oh, I was a cartoon blue dog. But actually, I was the CEO of the company. Mm-hmm. So all I needed to do was turn my story around and say, I was the CEO of a company and I signed deals with Disney, ITV Studios and Samsung for a TV series where I was the voice of the blue dog, rather than saying I was the voice of a blue dog who happened to be on ITV and Disney and Samsung. So the framing of that piece of information makes all the difference in the world. That's point number one. Then if you move forwards to where should I place the information, in the googly world from traditional SEO, it was this domain has huge domain authority because the page rank that Google invented is where the power comes from. And it was very generalist. It wasn't very focused on specific niches or entities, brands. Now, the URLs, the pages on the web that have power for any given entity are entity specific. So my brand can be heavily influenced by a page on a website that has nothing to do with you.
Right.
So that idea of domain authority and even page authority, in a global sense, no longer holds sway. What's important is which pages on which websites are going to make sense for your specific brand, your specific entity. And that's where the 25 billion data points come into play, is I can tell you exactly which pages these algorithms are looking at. And I think that's what people fail to realize, is when I'm trying to educate the algorithms about my brand, I need to make sure that every single reference to me online is consistent. But let's say there are 20,000 references to me online. How do I know which ones to focus on?
Right.
And as a human being, you can probably guess the first 10. You certainly can't guess the next 90. How do you know that you're not wasting your time on the 19,900 that you are aiming at. So you've got 20,000, 100 make a big difference. You can figure out 10. You need to figure out the next 90. Either you figure out the next 90 with the data that we have at CaliCube and you know what you're doing, or you need to correct the 19,900. I would definitely go for the, let's focus on the URLs that really matter.
You talked about consistency. And, for someone who's sitting there, like, how do they prioritize consistency over increasing their credibility? Which one? I understand they're both important, but just to talk through why each is important and maybe how people can prioritize inside of that.
Yeah, well, look, one of the things that people come to me and CaliCube, they immediately say, I want to put myself on more platforms. And that's a mistake. You don't want to be on more platforms off the bat. What you want is to sort out what you already have, because that's already going to be incredibly powerful. Well, as I said earlier, if you sort out your digital footprint, you're going to be beating somebody else who's one step above you who hasn't sorted out their digital footprint. Once you've done that, you need to figure out where you need to be placed in order to have the most effect. So it's not more, it's more quality. And the problem with more, I had a client who signed up for a platform and they said, we'll create you 100 social media profiles for $60. I can't remember the price. He now has a huge problem that every time he changes the way he talks about himself, he has to update 200 or 300 different profiles. So the problem he now has is that the information that he's pushed out there on, let's say, 300 profiles needs to be updated every time he changes the way he talks about himself, which is quite often. And I think as human beings, we don't realize how often we change our brand narrative. So if you create 300 profiles, you need to understand that over the next 20 years, you need to manage those 300 profiles.
That's a lot. And when you say change, what is an example of how a person or brand would change in a way that would affect consistency in this manner?
Great question, because you kind of think, well, it's not a big deal. For example,
that's what I mean. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't change that much. What are you talking about? I'm the same guy I was last year.
Yeah, but perhaps you sell your company or you move on to a different niche in your industry. But I'll give myself an example. Jason Barnard is a best-selling author, award-winning innovator, renowned keynote speaker and entrepreneur. All of a sudden, I realized that the AI is presenting me primarily as an author, but I'm losing business.
Right.
I suddenly think, oh, I need to be an entrepreneur because that's where I'm going to make my money, or I need to be an innovator because I need to demonstrate that I'm a pioneer. I need to change the order of that sentence, and I need to do it everywhere because the AI will react to consistency. So then I need to go through 300 different platforms and correct Jason Barnard is an award-winning innovator, entrepreneur, best-selling author, and renowned keynote speaker.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You talk about deliverability. So again, we have understandability, we have credibility, and then the third was deliverability. Maybe outline that for everyone, and then we can get into a few questions around that.
Yeah, deliverability is all about, do these engines, ChatGPT, Google, Perplexity, have the content that they need in order to deliver you to the subset of their users who are your audience? So if you've got all the credibility in the world and they understand who you are, you're in a really good position in terms of being recommended when somebody's at the bottom of the funnel searching your name, or towards the bottom of the funnel looking at the comparison between you and your competition. But how do you reach that top of funnel audience? The machines need the content in order to introduce you to the conversation. And I think that's kind of the key to the current AI world, is that all of these machines are building the acquisition funnel into their walled garden. So if you go to Google AI mode, it will bring you down the funnel. from awareness to consideration to decision. If you go to ChatGPT, it will draw you down the funnel. You need to be sure that you're in that funnel, you're top of algorithmic mind from top to the bottom. And I'll give you a really quick example, which isn't necessarily to do with deliverability, but I play double bass and I have a huge bass amp sitting right over there. One day I thought, I want to try playing the guitar, but I don't want to buy a guitar amp. I asked ChatGPT, can I play the guitar through the bass amp? And it said, yes, you can. I said, will I break it? It said, no, you won't, but it will sound terrible. And I said, okay, how do I make it sound good? It said, you need compressor, equalizer, and a reverb. Brilliant. Okay. Which ones should I buy? Told me 3 brands, price 250 euros, dollars. I then said, okay, I don't want to spend lots of money. Can you do that for $125? It said, yep, absolutely. If you're not a professional musician, here are the 3 things you can buy. That's going to be good. Brilliant. Okay, where should I buy it? If you're in the US, buy it from Sweetwater. If you're in Europe, buy it from Thomann. I'm in Europe. I want to buy it from Thomann. It gave me the link, clicked through, bought them, $125 in the pocket of Thomann in the space of 15 minutes. From the moment I asked myself the question, can I play a guitar through a bass amp, to the moment I purchased was 15 minutes, and I trusted ChatGPT 100%. Oh, and I didn't visit a single website.
Yeah, no Googling involved.
Thomann was deliverable.
Yep.
They provided the information to the machine to help me make that decision. In the consideration phase, they dominated, and it didn't suggest Star Music or any other provider or supplier of these pedals in Europe. And when it got to the bottom, it said basically my only choice was Sweetwater or Thomann. It didn't give me other choices. It was zero sum. I'm in Europe, therefore Thomann, full stop. None of the other resellers got a look in.
Let's get tactical if we can. For people listening who are probably chomping at the bit to get to work on all this, what are, kind of the highest priority items that people need to tackle, whether it's on their website, on their about page, whether it's technical stuff like internal linking and schema and all that, whether it's off-site, so building more credibility, like improving consistency, like what are the things people should go figure out and do right away?
Well, I would take a step back and ask myself, who am I? What do I do? Who do I serve? And how can I prove that I'm authoritative, credible, the best solution? And I would lay out my arguments on my own website. So I wouldn't go out and get new things. I would immediately say, okay, here's my website. How does my website, communicate who I am, what I do, and why I'm credible? Page by page. With what I already have. And I will link out to all of the resources that prove that who I am, what I do, and why I'm credible is in fact true.
Do I just need to do this on my about page, or do I need to do this truly everywhere on my website, like you just said?
For the foundational understanding who I am, what I do, and who I serve, you can just do it on the about page. So you start there. But then you want to build out. I mean, if you've got product pages, you need to do it product by product. If you've got testimonial pages, that's a great place to communicate credibility. So you need to understand that each page on your website is communicating with the machine, and that machine is then communicating with your audience. And you're trying to get the machine to say what you want to the subset of its users who are your audience. So you want, number one, to be top of algorithmic mind. Number two, to get the algorithms to say what you want. And you need to do that at category. Well, I would start with the about page, then the categories, then the pages. And that's already going to be 6 months work.
I was going to say,
to get anywhere near.
I was both hoping and not hoping you'd say that. But at the same time, to your point, like for those interested in doing the work, you are several legs up on all the other people that might have that credibility, but just won't do that work. They won't make it that clear for algorithms and LLMs, et cetera.
Yeah. And if I come back to the Authoritas report, I'm no more famous or authoritative or credible than Brian Dean, Neil Patel, Lily Ray, and yet I'm top of the list simply because I've done the work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think that's critical. I mean, within our industry, obviously, I'm faced with people who are experts at manipulating the machines. They're experts at manipulating Google and ChatGPT and Perplexity. And yet I'm on top of the list. Why am I top of the list? Because I'm doing the detailed work where I'm setting out who I am, what I do, who I serve, and why I'm credible in an incredibly consistent, simple, easy to understand and digest manner. And I'm pointing out to all of the proof. And I'm framing it all in a way that makes sense to a machine.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. I'll make it a two-part question. You're
Ooh.
either going to roll your eyes or you're going to say, I get this question every single time. But I went to a group of colleagues and I said, hey, I'm having Jason on the podcast. What's the one question you would want to ask him? And they all said the same thing.
Oh.
So I figure it's a good one, or at least I figure I have to ask it. And it's about Wikipedia. Is it a zero-sum game and you just have to have a Wikipedia page or not? And if you do, how does one go about getting cited on Wikipedia or getting a Wikipedia page? And that's a big question. I realize that.
No, it's a wonderful question because it's such a misconception.
Mm-hmm.
I spent my Sunday afternoon, as one does, looking at the data in CaliCube. And in CaliCube, we have 23 million URLs covering 1,300,000 domains. Of those 1,300,000 domains, 62,000 are essential to Google and AI understanding. So the 62,000 domains where we can communicate directly with the brain of the machine. One of them obviously is Wikipedia, and that covers 20%. But Wikipedia is 0.012% of all the knowledge Google has.
Yep.
So being in Wikipedia is going to give you a huge advantage. It's always a huge win if you can get in.
Yep.
If you can get in and stay in, because they're going to delete your entry if you're not notable. And notability is not notable in that my mother and my dog and my next door neighbor and even the people within my industry recognize who I am. It's, are you notable in the sense that any person on earth would be interested in you if they understood what you did? And the answer is almost certainly no. So Wikipedia will give you the huge advantage, but Wikipedia is 0.012% of everything Google knows. And as Google and ChatGPT and Perplexity learn more and more about the world, that number is going to go down to 0.0000001% of everything it knows. So the obsession with Wikipedia is a mistake. And I'll give you an idea of the scale of Wikipedia. Wikipedia is 6 million entities. CaliCube covers 70 million. We're 10 times bigger than Wikipedia. And Google is 10,000 times bigger than Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, in terms of knowledge, understanding, and communicating with the AI, is very, very small. Mm-hmm. Wikipedia is generalist, so you will end up being put in a generalist field. But actually what you want to dominate and to get the right clients is to be in a very specialized field. Mm-hmm. So if you were to give me the choice, if I were a poodle parlor in Paris, you gave me the choice between Wikipedia and Poodle Parlors of Paris Association website, I would choose Poodle Parlor of Paris Association website because it's specific to my industry and my location.
Okay.
And Wikipedia is too generalist.
So we'll call them mentions with high relevancy on specific places that are known and reputable for what you do.
Yep.
Are supersede a general Wikipedia page, mention, etc.
That's delightfully put. Yes, 100%. If you can get industry and geolocation specific, you're winning the game.
Industry and geo. Okay, good. So those are really important. And I think a lot of times people have almost cast those aside. A lot of people you'll hear refer to those as, oh, those are just like directory listings or something like that. But they have a high level of importance. What are some other maybe misnomers around this? I gave you the Wikipedia one because I totally agree. Like, it is the holy grail in people's minds, but you just said, hey, here's something that's better. What are other things people can look at to build out their credibility online from a third party sense that might fly under the radar for a lot of people?
Right. Well, I think if you look at Wikipedia, the other one is Reddit right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're generalist. And there's a lot of noise. On Reddit, there's a huge amount of noise. The machines don't like noise. They prefer something incredibly explicit and specific. So the Poodle Parlor of Paris Association website is going to be very organized and very specific and very niche. That's going to be more powerful than a Reddit mention. So if you're going to spend 2 days getting a few Reddit mentions, I would say spend those couple of days getting yourself on the Poodle Parlor of Paris website. And Wikipedia, same thing. So you need to look at what makes sense within your industry, within your location. But once again, look at what you already have. And I think people don't do that enough. In fact, it's not I think. I know people don't do that enough. Clients come to us, and the first thing we do is sit down and we have an interview with them. And we walk through everything they've done in their lives. And by the end of it, they're saying, oh, wow, I hadn't realized, number one, how much I've done in my life, but number two, how we can frame what I've done in my life, what I've achieved in my life to my current need. And that story of the blue dog, the CEO of Up to 10, is a great example. Another great example is I was a musician in a band. I played the double bass. I was relatively famous as a musician. And so the musician always dominated. But as soon as I turned that around and said I was actually the CEO and founder of the company that signed a deal with EMI and Warner Chappell, all of a sudden the AI starts saying, oh, Jason Barnard is signing these deals with these huge companies, and not talking about the blue dog in the cartoon or the double bassist in the punk folk band. So my advice to everybody is look at your history, look at how that can serve your today, how you can frame it to push this information into the machines. You don't need to do anything new. You don't need to be in Wikipedia. You need to focus on what you've already done that brings you authority and credibility within your current industry, often leveraging things that don't appear at first sight to be relevant, and you're already going to be winning the game simply because your competition aren't playing the game.
We've danced around this a lot, so I want to ask a question, maybe to put a finer point on it. I'll give you an example. Let's say I am a family law attorney in Seattle, Washington, right? Lots of attorneys in Seattle, Washington, lots of them doing family law and stuff, right? I'm not a lawyer, so if I messed anything up there in my example, apologies. But like, how important is specialization in comparison to just building up consistent credibility? Because does this attorney need to specialize in certain areas so that they can get better cited? Going back to your poodle parlor example, what if they're just a parlor that accepts all dogs? Do they need to be a poodle parlor? Does this family law attorney need to specialize? Or is it something where it's okay that they can stay a little bit more general and then build more credibility, and that will be what helps them get cited in Google, LLMs, etc.? I hope I explained that as clearly as I could.
You did it, and it's delightful. I mean, I'm going to stick with the Poodle Parlor because I like it. Poodle Parlor of Paris really makes sense to me for some reason. And it's an example I've been using for years and years and years. Now,
I just looked it up, and you're directly referenced in LLMs with that quote, for the record. So I just
seriously,
yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to look at that. That's delightful. I never thought about it. Brilliant.
I was just looking to see if there really was a Poodle Parlor Association in Paris, and there isn't, but your name is mentioned alongside of it. So anyways, carry on.
It just goes to show the power of organizing information, which is what I do. And I do talk about this, not that much, but sufficiently for the LLMs to get overexcited about it. So if I were a parlor in Paris that dealt with any kind of dog, my first question would be, okay, which is the dog that pays me the most money? So let's say poodles are the most profitable dog hairstyling that you can do.
I imagine they might be. I don't think it's too much of a stretch.
Yeah, okay. So the bulldog has very short hair, so the parloring of a bulldog isn't going to bring me a lot of money. So I would say, okay, I do all of these different dogs. I'm going to focus just on poodles for the initial kickoff. How do I make myself the dominant force in poodles within Paris? And I would do that first, and then I would spread out and say, okay, now let's look at Pekingese. Poodles and Pekingese. And then I would spread out to poodles and Pekingese and pug dogs. Everything with a P is my
I was going to say, the alliteration is strong here.
And so start with a huge niche, a tiny niche.
Yeah. And
build that out. That would be the way to go. And if I do that over a period, and it's not even 20 years, over the period of a couple of years, let's say, we start with one race of dogs, poodles, and we build it out. And I spend 2 months on poodles, 2 months on pug dogs, 2 months on Dalmatians. Let's lose the alliteration. By the end of a couple of years, I've covered pretty much every major race of dog, and I've nailed the market in Paris for all types of dogs and their hairstyles and what might need to be done. So the key is to start with a hyper niche and build your way out. Mm-hmm. It isn't to try and hit the generalist. And I'll come back to the acquisition funnel. The mistake that 95%, 99% of businesses and SEOs and digital marketers make is, I'm going to start at the top of the funnel with awareness, with these big volume keywords, these big demand situations on social media. You shouldn't. You should start with your brand at the bottom of the funnel. When people are searching a name, they're ready to do business. You need to convert them. You need to look as good as you possibly can. Then move to consideration. Who's the best poodle parlor in Paris is my next one up on the consideration phase. And I'm only going to be looking at the top of the funnel with the awareness. I need to get my dog hairstyle done at the end of the process. So my belief is that people are working from the top to the bottom, and they should be working from the bottom to the top.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That was a great way of going and diving deep into that. And I think it's important because a lot of what you're talking about is synonymous with what people who don't specialize in ranking, but people who specialize in business would recommend.
Yeah.
Niche down, specialize, find a target market. Sure, once you nail that market, expand into a slightly larger one. That is how businesses grow, but it's very hard to start with a broad market and try to, you don't need to be all things to all people, at least not at the outset.
Yeah, 100%. Start with a niche, start with your brand. Then build your niche out and build up the funnel from the brand to consideration to the top of the funnel. And it's a lot of work. And I think that's kind of something that disappoints and discourages people. People come to us saying, what's the silver bullet? I want the silver bullet. And the answer is there isn't one. There never has been. And if you want to build a proper business, you need to do it step by step. And there isn't going to be one silver bullet that makes it all work for you. And whereas with Google, there were sometimes tricks you could play that would get you to the top, but it was always temporary. AI is smarter, it's deeper, it's going to be more meaningful, and the benefit you get from it is going to be compounding. But only if you do it right. You can still trick the AI today, but I wouldn't bet on it in 2 years' time. I would bet on my brand and my niche first, build my business on that, and then I'm safe and I'm comfortable and I'm happy.
So, final question for me. Let's say that someone has gone down this road for a little bit of time and they've put into practice a lot of what we're talking about. What are some ways to get mentioned in places like a Wikipedia, some of these big maybe online publications? What are they looking for these days? You talked about being noteworthy, or I think you said notable. I didn't write it down. What are, assuming that now we're talking to someone who has listened to this podcast interview 3 or 4 times, they're 3 or 4 months down the road and they want to know how to take that next step. And so I wanted to ask that kind of as a final question.
Right. Yeah. I would bear in mind notability is niche specific. So Wikipedia still isn't your main target. If, for example, myself, I'm in the digital marketing SEO space, the most powerful domains for me are WordLift, who's a company within my industry who specializes in what I specialize in. When I analyze the data using CaliCube Pro, WordLift come out on top for me, but they come out 20th for Lily Ray. Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal come out near the top for both of us. So they're always going to be the obvious authoritative sites within your niche, Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal in the SEO world. But for me personally, WordLift are very powerful, Authoritas are very powerful. And for somebody else, they won't be powerful at all. So that idea of notability is not only niche specific, but also site specific and entity specific. And obviously that's not very helpful. Not everybody has all of this data, but you can certainly guess most of it. Is you can go in and say, I understand that my incredible niche is there. This other company has the incredible niche there. And if I can get mentioned on that website, the relationship is very strong. We can end with that is think about how close, strong, and long the relationship is with the other entity that's talking about you, the other brand. So, for example, WordLift, I keep talking about them, but the relationship is close because we have clients that we work on together. We have an offer that we make together. It's very strong because we're working together on multiple clients. And it's long because I've known them for the last 7 or 8 years. Close, strong, long will make all the difference. So poodle parlors in Paris, that's very close because we're both talking about poodle parlors. And it's very, very close also because we're talking about Paris, which is the location. So the niche and the location remain incredibly important. And let's assume the Poodle Parlor of Paris Association has existed for the last 50 years. My Poodle Parlor has existed for 10 years. That's a long relationship because it's the entirety of my existence. And their relationship or their existence is 50 years in the making. So look for that rather than looking at Wikipedia is my huge piece of advice.
I love it. And it's a perfect place to kind of park it because I think that, this, like, as you said, this work is extensive. It's long. It takes a while. It's, it's almost akin to building a brand. And if you're focused on the wrong things, you're going to spend a lot of time spinning your wheels and driving in a direction that's not going to get you to your destination. So that's why I'm glad we kind of got to the core of a lot of this. And I think you did a great job sharing. So where can people learn more about how you can help, how you can short circuit some of this process for them, and just any other information you have where people can kind of connect with you?
Well, ask ChatGPT or Google about Jason Barnard or Kalicube, Kalicube. But apparently you can also ask about poodle parlors in Paris.
Yeah.
And you'll find me too. And we're suddenly going to get a leap in search queries on ChatGPT and Google, poodle parlors in Paris, Jason Barnard. And that's delightful. But if you want to learn more for yourself, go to calicube.com/guides, kalicube.com/guides, and we give all this away for free. So you can go in and you can do it yourself. 60-page downloads, figure it out, do it yourself. And as you said, it's a lot of work and you need to stick at it and you need to maintain that consistent brand narrative over time and over space. Mm-hmm. So not only do you need to make sure it's consistent across the web, but you need to make sure it's consistent over time. The AI takes a year to digest everything. So look at everything in cycles of a year. I need to be consistent across my digital footprint, and I need to be consistent over that digital footprint over a year. If you want to work with us because you feel that the value that we can bring, which is to relieve you of the effort of figuring out what you need to do, what the priorities are, learning everything you need to do, and you spend your life actually making money for your company. As a CEO, founder of a company, I know that my time is best spent going out and finding new clients, developing the business and moving things forward. Then, get in contact. We'd be happy to work with you. And if you want your poodle parlored, please don't come to me.
No. Yeah, I was going to say the salon in Paris actually opening up. We'll have to wait for another day. But until then, we know that if you were to do it, you would have the biggest leg up because you're already associated with it.
Yeah, and you've just given me an idea. I think I might move to Paris and open a poodle parlor.
Hey, good retirement. Good, step into retirement could be your next business.
Thank
Jason, this is great. It's for me been a long time coming. I wanted to have you on for a long time. I'm glad we made it happen. Thank you for coming on.
Me too.
An hour flew by. It's great to get to know you. Until we talk again, be well.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely delightful.
Before you go, don't forget about the quick win from one of our listeners. Felice Kaufman grabbed a free GEO snapshot audit from Tool One Creative to check on her site's LLM visibility, and it unexpectedly uncovered a hidden technical issue that was holding her site back. She fixed it immediately, and within days, an older article hit the top of the search results. Her words, your GEO audit was a godsend. So if you want to see how your site shows up for AI, what might be quietly holding it back, you can still grab this for free at tool1creative.com/GEO snapshot. All right, we'll see you in the next episode.